me, Maria, with Rebellious International, and on behalf of Authority Magazine, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome with us today Mike Gibson, a former NFL player who is turned into a mental advocate. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Maria, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mike, I'll let you get us started by telling us, sharing your story and what has brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I'll kind of get started with my childhood, go through it pretty quick. Childhood, came from a, blue collar family, hardworking family, and had some stuff going on at home. And for me, I realized at a young age that, sports kind of got me out of that environment. And one thing about sports is it doesn't matter the color of your skin, what your economic status is, as a family, what type of shoes you wear. As long as you can play, you can play. And I understood that pretty quickly and realized that, being good at sports kind of took away from that. People didn't really see that. And so I realized that I was different from a young age. And, sports has been a huge part of my life. I was very determined at a young age in what I wanted to do, and that's play football professionally, and nothing was going to get in the way of that. So in terms of, mental health, I really stayed the course, did everything I could to have some of those outside distractions, partying in high school, like a lot of people do, as well as, extracurricular activities, right? So I was so focused on sports, and that it was awesome for me. It was great for me, not only for my mental health, but for what I wanted to achieve in life. And, eventually I ended up earning a scholarship to Cal Berkeley. And after going to junior college for 2 years, and, even then, I did struggle with my mental health. I struggled to fit in. There were, and so I used alcohol to cope with that, right? So I have social anxiety, and alcohol kind of turned me into somebody that I liked, because I didn't like that social anxiety aspect of it. And so that's how I kind of got and understood what now, as I understand, is using a substance to cover up the way that I feel. And that would end up affecting me later on in life, with prescription pain medication, and to hide my anxiety, to hide my depression, to change the way that I felt, and eventually abusing that, and seeking long-term care and help for that on multiple occasions. I went to treatment more than one time. Not everybody has to. And so that's kind of my life in a nutshell.
And now doing what you do, what fuels you, Mike?
So right now I'm the director of community outreach for the Mental Health Center of San Diego, and a facility, Healthy Life Recovery, here located in San Diego. And it's really given me a sense of purpose. What fuels me is seeing somebody from start to finish and their life completely change. And understanding that if I can do it, and I can show them that it is achievable, then they can do it as well. And so seeing somebody who's from day one until I got a message today of somebody that I literally this morning that I got somebody into treatment a while back, and their life has completely changed today. And that to me is the reason why I do this job. That fuels me. 5.5 years ago, the person who I called to get into treatment was on vacation with his family in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And that to me was inspiring, and understanding that, this job never sleeps. The disease never sleeps. So I'm always there to pick up my phone, always available, calling people back, because it's important.
Support system. Yeah. And thanks for being vulnerable with us. And speaking of that, how is vulnerability serving you to connecting and relating to those who you serve now?
I mean, it's everything. It's everything, sitting there telling your story and being able to relate to them. It's one of the only jobs in America where the more negative stuff you've been through, the more you're able to help somebody out. And to me, that is one of the fascinating things about this job. It's one of those things where it's good to have an education in school in terms of schooling, but in terms of everyday life education, it's one of those unique jobs to where it'll benefit you and it'll benefit the client as well.
Yeah, real life teaches you the best lessons, right?
There's no doubt about that.
And speaking of lessons, any lessons that stand out to you that have been big lessons for you with what you do, or maybe a funny story, something that you didn't appreciate back then, but now you're like, wow, I get the lesson now.
Yeah, it's a lot of my story, and the reason why I am clean today, right, is trying to prove things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to prove that from what, you know, and Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, right? They have little cliches, little sayings, you know, and for me, I was one of those people where like, I'm going to prove them wrong. You know, I'm not one of those people. I thought I was terminally unique. And through the process of going through the steps, through the process of seeking counseling, realizing that this thing's been around for coming up, you know, I guess we're about 10, 15 years away from being around for 100 years and has saved millions of lives. Like trying to prove that wrong, even though it's helped so many people, and realizing I was in total denial. I was the one that was completely wrong. You know, it doesn't happen quickly. You know, for me, it happens on God's time, but I've been able to recuperate a lot of the things and more than what I had in my, you know, before I got clean and before I sought mental health help.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? I mean, mental health is a common topic nowadays, right? With pandemic and isolation and so forth, substance abuse is up. What is the importance, based on your personal journey and now your professional life, of mental health? Why is it important, and why should we take care of our mental health? Why should we make it a priority?
Yeah, I mean, what's the one good thing that has become of the pandemic is the normalization that people do struggle with mental health. You know, like I said, this disease doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who you are. If you're a celebrity, if you're a football player, if you're, you know, an individual as a person. So I think what's important is realizing that we do struggle with mental health, and it's okay to get help. I think a lot of people are afraid to make that phone call. They're afraid that it may make them look weak. It may have them sounding weak, but it's people struggle with it every day. And eventually, if you aren't able to grab a hold of it, it'll grab a hold of you, and it's crippling. It really is crippling. So I was a strong young man, and it had a stranglehold on me. You know, I'd always thought that I was mentally tough. I was a mentally stable person. But before I knew it, I had nothing left, you know, no house. I couldn't get a bank account, and I was really struggling.
Mm-hmm. So what do you tell to those who say they don't have time to prioritize self-care?
Yeah, I mean, well, make time. You know, it's for me, self-care is really important. You know, meditation, whatever that may be. Meditation doesn't have to be sitting there in a quiet room by yourself. It's whatever helps center you. And whether that's going to the gym and working out, whether that's doing a sport that you love, putting music on, laying in the sun, you know, it's prioritizing it is of the utmost importance, because if you're not prioritizing it, it's going to affect other aspects of your life, relationships, work, I mean, love life, you name it. It's going to affect it. I've seen it. I've felt it. It's happened to me. And today I prioritize it and put an emphasis on it, because it is that important. You know, self-care, when I talk to people who are struggling, they're going through a stressful time, is there anything that I can do to help you? Two, okay, what are you doing to take care of yourself? You know, like I said, whether that's sitting in silence for 15 minutes. When I was playing, it was a rule in my house when I got home from practice or I got home from the workday. You know, I come home, I sit in my room for 15 minutes to decompress, because you don't want to bring your work home and you don't want to bring your home to work, because it's going to end up affecting those aspects of your life. So it's important, prioritize it. If you don't have time, make time. 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
That's what I tell people. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be hours long.
Mm-hmm.
What does your self-care routine look like, Mike, nowadays?
Yeah, so for me, I make sure I go to the gym every day. I do a lot of softball. I travel and play softball around the country, and I do recovery leagues for softball. So for me, I put on my headphones. I either listen to worship music or I just listen to positive music, and I go put a tee out in an open field, and I usually hit about 100 balls, and I go walk with a little wagon that has a bucket in it, and I go retrieve those balls, and then I walk back and I do it over again. That one, that's what I do on days that I don't work out. Like I said, sitting in silence for 15 minutes, driving with no music, sit there and processing the day, pray every night before I go to bed. And that's what my meditation and that's what my self-care looks like.
What grounds you?
Mm-hmm.
Any exciting projects you're working on right now, Mike?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently working on, actually it's kind of a new thing that I'm considering, right? And that's considering doing a podcast. I've been able to do a few of these, and I think it'd be pretty neat and special I love what you guys are doing, right? And bringing people's stories to the forefront, because it's been able to help so many people. And, I think that it's an awesome deal. So it's, my job keeps me busy, I'm on the phone 24/7, and there's no days off. So finding a side project can be difficult, but I try my best.
Yeah. And from all of the things that you do, what would you say is your favorite part of the day, Mike? Busy, intense schedule, probably a lot of heavy stuff.
Yeah, that can be my favorite part of my day, is when my phone stops ringing. It's a very brief time, but it's a time, right? And when I do have that self-care, spend an hour at the gym every single morning. I try to go early enough in the morning to where there's nothing, like my phone doesn't ring. There's no distractions. I try to go up before the roosters, and so that to me is probably my favorite time of the day.
Very cool. And Mike, if you could start a movement, what would that movement be like?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've never been asked that question, so I like it.
There you go.
It's in motion right now. The I guess destigmatization, is that even a word? Yeah. So
We'll make it one.
yeah, right. Removing the stigma. And it's slowly happening, right? It's slowly happening in society today, which is beautiful. It's the fact that the stigma of mental health and the stigma of substance abuse is going away. The government's starting to acknowledge it. One thing I wish that there would be is more opportunities for people to go get help. Some of these, we have county funded facilities, but there's just not enough of them. And so more, better and more affordable care for people struggling with substance abuse and mental health, for individuals that need it. And more support, more support from our government, more support from individuals who don't understand it. So I think that would be, if I had to do any movement, it would be more resources for individuals struggling.
What would you advise somebody who is maybe in the midst of not feeling so great or dealing with some of those issues?
Yeah, it's as hard as it is to pick up the phone and call, and ask for help, whether that's a family member, a loved one, a hotline, or a facility. There's more people. What I've noticed is there's more people out there that can relate to you than people that don't. So, maybe, they talk about, the 100-pound phone, the phone, it's hard to pick up that phone call and be vulnerable. Right. But I promise you, if you're vulnerable and you talk to somebody, you talk to the right person, somebody that you can trust, or somebody that's been through it, they will be there, they will listen, and they will help you.
That's great. What's a favorite quote that you have, Mike? Something that excites you, something that inspires you.
Yeah. So there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone.
Okay.
So,
I like
yeah.
that.
So basically, if you're comfortable, you're not growing. And if you're uncomfortable, you're growing, whether that's for the negative or the positive. Like I said, this job, the experiences that you go through, the more experiences you can go through, the more you can help people. I've just because I have my mental health at the moment is in check, right? And I have 5.5 years of sobriety time. Doesn't mean that every day goes perfect, right? It's not rainbows and unicorns. I still struggle. There's days that I still have depression. There's situations where I still have anxiety, but I have a solution today, and that's what's important.
Great. Mike, for those who would like to follow you, what's the best way to follow you?
So I'm on Instagram, Mike.Gibson69. I'm on Facebook. You can also reach out to us at mhcsandiego.com. And then you can reach out to us at healthyliferecovery.com. And, there's a 1-800 number that's on there. You can personal message me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'd love to help you out.
I appreciate your time, Mike. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody listening and reading. Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.